Morning and evening, everyone. Thanks for joining. Everybody there, looks like they're all coming in. So thanks for coming to the July 2024 user group session. Today we are hosting the M365 Rangers from Microsoft. Super excited to hear some of the things they're talking about. Just two quick things, and then I'm going to hand it over to them. So the first is, if you have questions, Q&A is not working for some of us this morning, but we have the chat open, so you can try both of those. You can also just raise your hand in Teams using the raise button there, and they'll call on you. This is primarily an Ask Me or Ask Us Anything session, so they're really excited to hear what you guys want to hear about, and that's really going to drive what they talk about. So don't be shy there. Second thing is that meeting is recorded, so if you do decide to come off mute and talk, just know that it'll get posted to our YouTube channel. So just keep that in mind. So if you don't want your voice on there, you can kind of stick to chat. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Matt. Kick it away.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Chris. Let me go ahead and share really quick, and then we will get rocking. Give me a thumbs up when you see it. Looks like it's presenting there.
Looks good. Oh, thanks for using our logo.
Yeah. I sniped it from something. I don't know where I got it. but yeah, so I wanted to kind of kick this off. I'm sharing, just in case anybody doesn't know, we're sharing with Teams Live. It's the most accessible way to share. Down towards the bottom of the presentation, if you need to. You can navigate forward, backward in the slides. I saw someone say that I might have to leave early. That's kind of the purpose of the Teams Live function, is to let you jump forward, jump backward, kind of move around within the presentation. There's a More Actions button in there that will allow you to magnify the slides, flip the contrast if the dark is too, like if you can flip it from dark to light, light to dark. And then in addition, you can translate the slides into a bunch of different languages dynamically. When you do those functions, it only does it on your end and not on ours. So it's a nice way that people can consume content. All the links as well in Teams Live that we're going to be sharing are clickable. So if you see something you want to click on it, and it'll just kick it open to your browser. But to kind of kick things off, I want to introduce our Ranger team. You might have seen us in the Discord Microsoft 365 apps channels, and sometimes we'll jump into Intune and some of the other ones as well. But if you run into Office like deployment or Microsoft 365 apps deployment type scenarios, that's our specialty. So from top to bottom, we've got Eric Wayne, Bob Clements, Martin Notnagel, and myself, Matt. We're all super happy to be part of the Discord community and jump in and answer questions from time to time. I don't know if it was strategic, but it worked like that. We're based in different time zones. So we got a bunch of different time zones covered. Martin's over in Europe, so he can cover that region. And then the other three of us are placed throughout the US. So wherever and whenever you need help, just mention us in Discord and we'll jump in. So next up, we do have some slides prepared, but we prefer to just make this a conversation. So if we have to use the slides, we'll jump in to kind of to start stirring things up and spinning up some questions. But outside of that, we would prefer if there's any questions right off the bat, I wanted to kind of open it up and then I'll jump into the slides after this. If there's any questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat or just take yourself off mute and ask the question.
So there's one in chat managed put in there regarding cloud updates. So cloud update status, this was a new column that got added when we did the changeover to cloud update. So the question is this column or parameter is not in the current export list? So when you click the export button in inventory, that data is not coming through. Yes, this is known. This is on our backlog to extend the export capability, among a couple of other things that we've logged as we are in public preview right now. So it's on the list of things we want to get into the export among other elements, but for the time being, it is only available from the portal through the admin experience right now.
Awesome. Thanks for that question. Thanks, Bob.
ETA. So say in a calendar year, if all things go along well. I don't know if for those in the WinAdmins community, if you paid close attention, if you watch all the news and outlets and whatnot, we've made a pretty big public announcement a few months back that we're highly focused on security. And so a lot of our engineering teams across Microsoft right now are heads down, just doing a massive security overhaul and cleanup across the organization. So this is also impacting some of our abilities to like roll things out more quickly than we'd like to roll things out quickly. So, but yeah, shoot for end of calendar year. Obviously, you guys are in the community. You can ping us anytime. We can give you updates as we hear as things get closer.
Perfect. All right. So next up, I'm going to jump into an agenda, kind of what we can cover, and then we'll pop through some slides. At any time during that process, feel free to post it in the chat or raise your hand with the hand function up on the top of Teams there. And then we can pause and jump in, ask questions, and respond to them. So first up, the Rangers, I already covered that. We're going to jump into how we can help, and then the slides are going to go through the Microsoft 365 Apps Admin Center. The first chunk will be Copilot ready. Hopefully everybody's adopting it, testing it, jumping in, kicking the tires on Copilot. And we're going to tell you how to get your M365 apps ready and the fastest way to get there. We'll also discuss Cloud Update and the functionality in the Apps Admin Center for that. Bob is going to cover the update validation section, which is a newer feature that's really nice to help accelerate your deployments and really answer those app compat scenarios with your senior leadership team. So first up, how we can help is essentially, everything's in the name Microsoft 365 Apps Rangers. The Ranger team covers deployment, install, uninstall, updates, and then the management scenario around policies with like Cloud Policy Service, anything in that scope. We can touch on activation and accessibility in the Microsoft 365 apps as well. So if anything in those areas is completely open during this session. So feel free to throw anything you want at us, and if we can't get it on here, we'll get your contact, and then we'll circle back around with it. So next up, the importance of the monthly channels. Everybody, I've talked to quite a few admins on the Discord WinAdmins community, and quite a few tenants are already making their move to monthly. Some have 50-50. There's a good sprinkle among all the tenants where some are dominant monthly, some are still on the semi-annual channel as well. So the purpose of this first section is to cover the importance of monthly and the next steps on how to get there. So out of the gate, we have from left to right the current channel, which is general purpose devices, any type, any size organization. We see quite a few tenants that have their default channel in their admin center set to current channel, as well as their default channel for installations. And then from left to right, once we move into the monthly enterprise channel, that's where we see the larger tenants, large enterprises. It is there because it's more predictable than monthly, easier to manage, but it does receive the features at a slower pace. The overview of the update channels is there at the bottom, a clickable link, and then channels explained by Bob and Martin are on that bottom right link. Once I hit this next transition, you're going to see that Copilot is only in current channel and available in monthly enterprise channel as well. We recommend monthly enterprise channel for the enterprise customers, and the semi-annual channel will not have Copilot in it. So if you are looking at adopting Copilot, we'd recommend that you chat with us, chat on here, ask questions, reach out to your account teams, and look at that journey on how to navigate. And then my last slide here that I'm going to cover is around, I'm just going to buzz through this pretty quick because a lot of us have already had these conversations. But when you're discussing it with your senior leadership team on how to move from semi-annual, which is released every 6 months, security updates released every month. So you will be patching it monthly, but it's your features will ship every 6, versus moving to that monthly enterprise channel where there's a ton of benefits. You'll see all the benefits there on the right. But what we did is we had a total economic impact study done a while back, and that link is there to that content so that you can share that with your leadership team and help them navigate that transition. It's not a hard transition. Our Ranger team has helped millions. We've moved millions of seats to the monthly enterprise channel, and thousands of tenants, and it is just something that we'll jump on and answer your questions and things like that. So before I pass it over to Eric here on this next one, what I'd like to do is we'll jump in, get questions, but if you can, in the chat, what Microsoft 365 app channel is dominant in your organization? I put them up there. Current channel is CC, monthly enterprise is Mac, and a semi-annual channel just for ease of typing. But feel free to drop yours in there. It'd be interesting to see kind of what the spread is among the tenants that are on the call. Perfect. Mac. Man, see, it's great.
And maybe Matt, there's a couple of questions that have come in we can tackle here.
Yeah. Before we pass to Eric. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So I just talked about the offline update. I'll just reemphasize. So if an Office update is considered borked, or like if something major happens, a major incident caused by Microsoft, then typically like the updates are published to the CDN. If it's a true major customer impacting issue on our end, the reason we have a throttle on our CDN is just for that. We'll detect the issue and then we'll pull the update. And like I put in the chat, for monthly enterprise channel, I think I've only seen that happen once over the last few years. And it was related to a security fix that caused a lot of disruption. So, but yeah, we don't automatically trigger a rollback with cloud updates. That is an action by the admin. I mean, maybe in the future we'll have a capability there. We could definitely talk about. But there are other signals like update validation, apps health that you as an admin can monitor, because maybe it's not an update that borked everybody, but it's causing severe impact to your environment. So you can use those levers to monitor. And then in terms of Microsoft addressing a major incident, Message Center and Service Health Dashboard, I think, are your primary resources for tracking that stuff. There's a couple other in there. I don't know if Matt or Eric, you want to grab. There's the PowerShell one and the stopping of cloud updates.
I can grab that PowerShell one. So as far as like PowerShell commandlets or any automation for cloud policy service or within the admin center, we do have items on our backlog for the Graph API. It will be there eventually, but our goal right now is to get current channel and monthly enterprise channel fully feature rich before we transition to any of those, exposing any of the APIs to where you can call it. We just want to get it dialed in, features dialed in and stable, and then we'll shift gears over to those.
Yeah, and then there's the one about stopping cloud updates. So I guess, Vitaly, with that particular, when you say stopping, can you say if you pause it or did you deactivate the profile?
I paused them.
You pause it, okay. So
and today I found that I am not able to like resume update for a specific computer.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. So when you pause cloud updates, the actual update policies are still on that device. What you're doing is you're pausing the service from sending down any further instructions to the device. So then if you go try and trigger an update, well, the build number that it's on and everything are already like hard coded into the registry. So when you attempt an update, it's just going to say it's up to date because it's looking at maybe an old version that's still in the registry. So we can send the registry key out if you want to. If you're doing this for a test or something, you can manually purge that registry value or key altogether, and then run your update. Which at that point will help. Will get the system up to date. But as soon as it checks back in with cloud updates, once you're unpaused, it's going to snap back to whatever cloud updates is sending out. If that makes sense?
Yes, but I need like to update and leave that computer with newest version. And I understand it's not possible.
Yeah, if it's paused, if it's managed by cloud policy or cloud update, I should say, and you have the profile paused, you're kind of in like a version locked. You're not in a really good state. You either want to fully offboard the device from cloud update or resume cloud update to get the device updated and exclude out the devices you don't want to get updated.
Because maybe I will explain the situation, what's happening. We have an issue with add-in, and today the company responsible of the add-in gave us a solution, and we tried to test. And what I've noticed, I am not able to like update one computer and test on that computer.
Okay.
I need to like copy OTT tool, download the newest version, install the newest version. I am not possible like exclude from that pause single computers and to test the add-in itself.
Got it. Yep. So I just put the registry key into the chat. This is the cloud policy registry key. You can go here. You're probably going to have something like update target version or something like that in there. You could pretty much delete probably update target version at a minimum. Otherwise, you could delete everything in that registry key. These are the policies that Cloud Update sends out when it's not paused. Once you remove that and you go force an update check, assuming there's not a conflicting policy somewhere else on the device, it should update to the latest build. Then you can do your testing on that for your add-on.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we can keep working together. I know we chatted yesterday for a short bit, and then I had to jump on some calls. But yeah, we can keep kind of tunneling down on it and figure out the scenario that's happening.
Yeah, because unfortunately for 2 months I had to stop updates, and I've noticed that some feature I am missing.
Yep. Yeah.
Yep.
Something else to revisit is like pause affects your entire tenant. But if you're having an issue with maybe a section of users, maybe the add-ins only on a couple business units in your organization, you can use the exclusion windows feature, which is group-based. So you could go create an exclusion window for up to, I think, 28 days is the longest duration at a time that you can have a window. And then you can target specific groups. And what that'll do is essentially pause any further actions on those devices during that period of time while the rest of your organization can proceed.
I was thinking about that, but we have way too many computers in our environment, and we replace our computers very often. And it's hard to keep track of users who have this add-in, or maybe he has changed his home computer. So it's a bit complex. For me, it's easier just to stop for whole organization, fix the problem, and resume.
Yeah, understood. Yeah, we've talked about a couple things, changes to pause, some possible enhancements, things like having an automatic unpause, like you set when you hit pause, it like unpauses after 30 days or something, but maybe even a targeted pause might be an interesting, if this doesn't have a whole lot of overlap with exclusion windows, but Yeah, go since you're in a testing situation, modifying that registry path would be perfectly fine. I wouldn't do this at a large scale where you're modifying these registry keys for lots of computers. But if you're just testing to confirm the add-on is fixed, this is perfectly doable.
Sorry, I'm just responding to something. All right. So I think other than you see scan the questions here. There's a question, looks like for me, Manish, on how can we get email notifications and meeting invites or events with the Rangers. On Discord, there's always, whenever we do something, we'll reach out to the moderators and the admins on Discord. Chris is on here now with us and helped us set up this one, but it will be in the announcements section. And then we mainly hang out in the Microsoft 365 apps channel. So if you need us, you can just mention us there. I literally get up every day and get my coffee, walk up to my desk, and go to Discord each morning. It's like clockwork. So, and I know the other guys kind of do the similar process. So it's we monitor quite a bit there. In addition, there was another question down there about how to send notifications to Microsoft. You can hit us up through Discord. The fastest way possible to reach any engineering team is to use the send a smile or feedback functions inside each app. A lot of people feel like those are just like a giant drop of water into the ocean, but each engineering team does listen to it, and we have filters on our back end, especially for the admin portal that we service. We have flows that automatically dump into some reporting, so we know exactly when something gets submitted. We'll reach out. Like we're very active with the feedback. So I definitely suggest to use the feedback mechanisms to reach out and touch base with us. I think that's it for now. Let me scan this really quick. Yep. So perfect. All right. Eric, do you want to take over control and run through the next chunk?
Yes. So hey everybody, Eric Wayne here. I just wanted to talk to you guys about Semi-Annual Channel a little bit. I saw in the poll we did earlier, the vast majority of you are on CC and/or Mac, which is great to see. There's a few that put in SAC, Semi-Annual. We talked to a lot of customers, and there tends to be some misconceptions or straight up just myths about Semi-Annual Channels. So I kind of want to just go through kind of the top ones here that we hear to see if that's what your perception was as well, and see if we can kind of get ahead of some of that. But we did touch on the first one. Copilot will be available in Semi-Annual. As we said, that is just not true. We have no plans of putting Copilot into Semi-Annual. So any device that you are looking to license for Copilot must be on Monthly Enterprise Channel or faster. The next one is SAC is more reliable. This is a big, almost a paradox. It's actually less reliable to go slow, or more dangerous to go slow. And the reason behind that is what we really did with Semi-Annual Channel is we said to folks that needed that much slower release cadence was, okay, we'll create a build and we'll give it to you. We're gonna give that to you twice a year, but we're not gonna touch it. We're not going to touch it other than security updates, because we're not going to compromise there. So you're going to get a security update every month on that build, but that's it. We don't want to change the code within Semi-Annual, because any change, whether good or bad, is a change. So what it is it's a build that is what it is for 6 months minus security updates. So as bugs are discovered, and as any software product would have, we do fix our bugs, of course, but we'll fix them in the beta and the early channels and move it through current channel into Monthly Enterprise Channel quickly. But that will not see the next Semi-Annual Channel build until the next iteration. And there's a chance that depending on when those bugs are discovered, you might not see those bugs fixed for 8-9 months later, because of just the cadence. We might not get them fixed in time for like if we just saw one in June, it wouldn't make it for the July release, this month's release for semi-annual, so you wouldn't see that till January. So it's really not it's stable from a code standpoint, but it's not more reliable because it doesn't get improved. We have metrics that prove this. Your performance on it is slower. There's more bugs discovered in it as the months go on, things like that. So definitely kind of a misconception there. So it's actually faster, or it's actually safer to go faster because you get the improvements before having to wait every 6 months or longer. And therefore, monthly updates are less secure is another misconception. We will not compromise on security. Every month, every build gets the Patch Tuesday security update. If there's a 0-day, every build gets that as well. So from a security standpoint, it's the same across the board. If there's a known vulnerability, we patch it. End of story. Semi-annual channel needs to be updated once every 6 months. This is one that for some reason stuck out there. Kind of like bubblegum stays in your stomach for 7 years. I don't know how or why this one got out there, but a lot of IT pros thought they could just update their devices or touch the devices every 6 months with semi-annual channel, making their lives a lot easier. But the reality is that's just not true. You have to touch these devices every month to give them those security updates every month, regardless of which channel you're on. So the 6 months difference is the bugs that I mentioned earlier, feature updates, code improvements. And you have to think on things like Exchange Online and SharePoint Online, the services that we own on our side, we might update those every single day. However, the corresponding code that's necessary in the client, that needs to be updated via a feature update. And for semi-annual, that won't happen for every 6 months. So that's when we talk about some of these performance issues, like in Outlook, for example, not being able to take advantage of the improvements we made because we made the major improvement on the Exchange Online side, but the corresponding code is not in your Outlook client until 6 months later. But regardless, if you're on semi-annual channel, you need to touch the devices every month to give them those security updates, or you're going to be vulnerable for attacks. Another big one is users cannot absorb monthly feature updates. There's an idea that it was overwhelming to give your users something new every month, something new. And IT like to kind of hold back the floodgates on these features and try to send out emails and comms and saying, hey, here's what's coming to your new Office clients. And so you draft up this big, beautiful email that nobody in your organization is going to read anyway, right? And then every 6 months you get just straight, a big waterfall of updates. Well, the reality is we asked customers and asked IT pros, and it turns out both the IT pros and the customers like seeing 1 or 2 features a month versus all these features every 6 months, because the vast majority of the improvements that we're releasing aren't necessarily a new shiny button for your end user to push. It's things like I mentioned earlier. There was improvements to Exchange Online, so therefore we put in, quote unquote, a new feature or a change in the feature sets for Outlook, but the end user doesn't see it. They just benefit from a faster performance or easier calendaring or delegating of admins, things like that, as opposed to I have to just retrain my end users every month for these new shiny buttons. There aren't that many new shiny buttons that come out. So through our reporting and our researching, we definitely are seeing that releasing new features every month is better for the IT pro and it's better for the end user. The second to last one here, monthly channel updates will kill my network. Again, the idea of if I only have to touch my devices every 6 months, I can kind of structure this like a deployment or a new software deployment versus, geez, Microsoft, you're going to be hammering my devices every single month. And the reality is, like I mentioned earlier, you have to touch your devices every month, regardless of what channel you're on. Otherwise, you're going to be you're not secure. You're going to be out of currency range and vulnerable for attacks. And if you look at the updates that come in, the July update for semi-annual channel is going to be the biggest update of this month. And so for the people that are still on semi-annual channel that are worried about network, if you looked at the update that came through this month, if you didn't have any issues, great. I can just give you a smaller update every single month and you're never going to have to worry about it. if you did have issues with this month's semi-annual channel update, number one, the monthly enterprise channel updates are going to be smaller. But number two, definitely look at things like delivery optimization. You can tweak that to make the update sizes coming in from outside the network much smaller and much more manageable. Also looking at the Apps Admin Center, which Bob is going to talk about next, you can set up waves not only for testing, but also if you need to kind of tweak one or two areas in your environment that are highly sensitive for network. But again, if you didn't have any problems with this month's semi-annual channel, the monthly enterprise channel update's half the size anyway. And lastly, the semi-annual channel is recommended for enterprise. This was true. When this whole idea of subscription, this whole idea of let's license the user instead of licensing the device came about, semi-annual channel was recommended because of how much other change was going on. It was new to license users. It was new to have this network connectivity. It was a new subscription model as opposed to purchase software that you put on one device one time. So for enterprise customers, we invented, our team was the team that invented the channels, and we said, enterprise, you should go to semi-annual channel. But for all the reasons I said above, we are now completely changed our tune. In the last few years, we have worked really hard with enterprises to give you that better experience with the monthly enterprise channel. And again, the proof is in the pudding. End user satisfaction is better. It's faster. It's more reliable. Less bugs. All those great things. And the vast majority of enterprises are on it. We're past the tipping point where there's more folks on monthly than there are on semi-annual, and that's continuing to get smaller every day. So we recommend it, very passionately, and we definitely want to help you all get there if you haven't had a chance to get there yet. So that's my myths versus reality slide. Now, if anybody who put the in the poll or who's brave enough, who's still on semi-annual, would be willing to come off mute and kind of tell me if this changes your mind at all, if there are still concerns that you have that we haven't addressed yet. Any brave souls that want to? If not,
you're not
that's
going to
okay.
get shamed. There's definitely valid reasons for SAC. I think Chris just put in there like, why even have SAC? I'll just comment in there. So we've since updated our public documentation and things too. We do work with a lot of companies, and we'll move 99.5% of their company to a monthly channel. But the reason SAC still exists is because there's still valid reasons for SAC. There's medical equipment, there's kiosks, there's machinery, there's just systems where customers don't necessarily want to be on a perpetual LTSC kind of build. They still want to have access to some of the modern capabilities, but they don't want to be, or they cannot be updating it every month with new features. So we keep SAC in the mix, but it's definitely been lower leveled down to sort of we call it internally, we say non-human devices, right? So devices where there's not a user trying to be productive.
Yep, exactly. If you have a computer on the shop floor and its only job is to read a Microsoft Access schematic and kick something out of the assembly line, that device doesn't need co-authoring. It doesn't need, faster updates in Excel. It doesn't need all the greatness that comes with faster channels. It just needs to sit there and do its thing. So there's still a valid reason for it. But yeah, for your human touch devices, for 99% of your organization, the vast majority of all computers in your org, you definitely don't need to be on SAC, and we aren't necessarily looking for that one size fits all solution. So again, for those of the folks that are still on semi-annual, we can maybe rethink your strategy with some of the stuff that Bob's going to talk about next year onto how getting the majority of your folks on that better experience while still being strategic and smart with a few devices that do need to have that more stable build, whether it's doesn't have all the bells and whistles, things like that. So, but if there are no other questions or thoughts on that, I can pass the baton here and we can talk about managing all of this stuff. And so Bob, take it away.
Yeah, golden. So just before I jump to the next slide, try and catch up on some of these things in chat. So Morton, great question. You asked a while back ago, it seemed like there was an issue, a lot of devices showing as unmanaged. I'm trying to recall that issue, but I will speak to the unmanaged. So we added something new in Cloud Updates. We actually added a column in inventory, which was brought up earlier in the call, called Cloud Update Status, which shows when a device is being managed by the service or is onboarding. There's a couple nuances around how the onboarding process is. We essentially, from a service side, we try to make it as simple as possible. Basically, you don't really need to do anything, right? It's not like Intune or Config Manager or any other third-party like device solution where you've got to put a client on or enroll the device. The intent is to have this all happen automatically with just simple Office usage. If the user's being productive in Office, then the device is onboarding automatically. But there are caveats to how the onboarding works, and we're trying to tighten those in a little bit because we understand as an admin, you want to know when is my device managed, when is that device getting updates. So the unmanaged piece, I would say, could have been related to some behavior we had. For example, the scenarios we have in our documentation. Most commonly, it's because, well, this device is already on the latest build, and based on when it came into the service, our service Cloud Updates doesn't go and send out an update policy if it sees the device is already on the latest update. It figures it doesn't have an action at that point. And we've made some tweaks to make that a little bit more refined, so we will actually reach out to the device, which maybe that's what you're referring to. Is that was a few months ago. We tightened that up a bit. But even to this day, if you're putting on new devices on your network, it may take a bit of time, a couple of days, especially if it's on the latest update, because I think it's predominantly our healing agent on the service side is kind of revisiting devices that aren't technically in scope, but are on the latest update and should be getting policies. And again, that's something we're trying to refine. But if you have any issues, like if you're saying still have devices in here and they're not showing up and they should be eligible, they're on the right channel, please put them into chat, like reach out to us. We could even have some ad hoc calls with you, because that's not intended. That's not how the service is designed. Those devices our objective is to do it within 24 hours, but we're lagging a bit right now. That's still something we're working on in the public preview. Okay, so I'll continue on, but if there's more to that, please drop it into chat. So yeah, management tools, as I mentioned, we're just talking about Cloud Updates. There's a lot of tools that available to you to manage M365 apps. We've got Group Policy, Intune, Auto Patch, which is basically sitting on Intune, Config Manager, Cloud Updates. The irony here is these are all first-party options. These are all tools provided by Microsoft. This does not even include the gamut of tools out there from third parties that also integrate and do update management. In this table, we had a much bigger version of this in other presentations we've done, probably within WinAdmins. This is a much more simplified table. Really what we try to highlight here is, like, as you look through these different tools, and most IT folks, total cost of ownership, you want it to be low, right? You don't want to be having to spend an extensive amount of time trying to roll out an update. You want that to be easy. Your enterprise controls, you want a fair bit of capability. You want to be able to do things like roll back and pause and set up exclusion windows and use groups and things. And then supported enclaves, this just refers to, like, if you are a customer that happens to be in a GCC high or DoD environment, if that's where your tenant's at, kind of what tool fits your situation based on availability, right? Some of our tools are only in the commercial space right now, which we're working to expand on, but this will definitely play an important role in the tool that you choose. In our case, we generally recommend Cloud Update. It's what we're talking a lot about on this call, partially because we own that. We built it specifically to be the best management tool for M365 apps possible. I think we still have work to do, and your feedback is really what helps drive those improvements and things. So continue to reach out to us and share your info with us. But in terms of Cloud Updates in and of itself, we do kind of our internal metrics. We have a lot of telemetry around how customers update their devices, how they stay current, and how they use Cloud Updates. What we find, customers that are using the modern update services like Cloud Update, generally you're going to just have a higher number of devices updated month over month. And this is in part because our service is behaving much faster, but also because it's taking maybe some legacy workflows out of your hands and making them more streamlined. So for example, we go into a customer environment, they're taking 3 or 4 weeks to deploy an update that came out on Patch Tuesday, which is obviously going to delay and put them at risk, but they're doing it because they want to be very cautious with the rollout. Well, when they onboard with cloud updates, they can kind of do that, but not nearly as long toothed. Like it's going to happen relatively quickly, depending on how they define their waves and things. So a higher number of devices updated every month. Install errors are much lower, especially when you compare to things like Config Manager. Those tools are just more prone to error because you can have content management issues. I mean, any SCCM admin on this call is going to know, probably has dealt with troubleshooting their DP and content distribution and things on your local network that cause issues. Whereas with the CDN, if you're, Cloud Updates just point you to the CDN and it's getting Delta downloads, it's much more efficient. The retries are more efficient. So we generally don't see as many update errors, meaning we're getting more of your devices updated every month. And then this is a very interesting metric. As we talk to a lot of admins, we calculate it down to about roughly around 6 hours per week of time saved dealing with the Microsoft 365 app update management. And it truly depends on the size of your organization and how much you're going down this rabbit hole. But you can easily chew up half a day, right? Building a report or dealing with updates or trying to make sure the right versions are installed. So we do see quite a bit of efficiency there. So let's talk about cloud updates a bit. For the folks on the call, maybe let me just pause because I don't think we did a poll question on this. I'd love to just know if you're not using Cloud Update, could you put either like do the thumbs up or something into chat? Because I'm curious, how many folks on the call we have that aren't using this service already. I see a lot of folks in it. Okay, so they got some config manager out there, obviously. Only one other person in this call. Then that's major kudos. Okay, well, awesome. Well, then this is directly targeted at you, Stephen. No, no. Well, we'll just run through these really quick, right? Because Cloud Updates is a re-envision of servicing profiles. This is something that came out in the fall of last year. So we call it Rich Data Insights, right? We try to give you the best data insights around your M365 apps. You can get a lot of this information from other sources, but generally what we found is admins are building, even Microsoft. We were helping build these at the time, SSRS reports, right, for SQL and Config Manager to give you a good idea of what your Office inventory looked like. Now it's just there. You go sign in, you have it turned on, you got all those insights right at your fingertips. Very simple. Automatic updates all through the Cloud Update system kind of takes the monotony out of managing your updates, downloading them, supporting an ADR or any of those types of workflows that you deal with today. Basically, we're directly tied into the APIs of the release management cycle for Office. That's how the back end works. So as soon as our release team for actual Office builds goes live on Patch Tuesday, that could be 1:30 in the morning or something. We pick that API up, we publish the new build, and we start sending out these, we call them update intents, generating them and sending them out. So this is all automated, all on the back end. As an admin, you're still hopefully in bed if you're in the US side, and this is all kind of working for you. Channel management, we enabled the ability to switch update channels in Cloud Update. You could do this with servicing profile, but it was tied into the update management, which is a little confusing for some admins. So now this is now its own dedicated action that an admin has full control over. You choose when channels change, which I think some admins do appreciate, that they don't have to worry about unexpected channel drift. So this is at your fingertips as well. Custom waves, right? You'd expect this with any type of update management tool. You can control how you configure your waves and do your deployments. Update validation, which we'll get into, and I see Martin's on the call, so I'm going to hand it to him when we get to that point. He's the SME here, but update validation is a really cool new preview feature that we've built to help you pre-validate, or I guess validate the newest build on your first wave of devices. And he'll get into the technical details on that, but it's just something really interesting that none of our other tools provide. And I think that's one thing we try with cloud updates in the Apps Admin Center. We know other tools do a lot of these steps. We're trying to make it the most efficient way, or even add new features that none of our other tools do or provide you. For example, channel management being kind of a one-click button, rollback being a one-click button, pause, like all of these things that our other features like Intune or Config Manager can do, but not necessarily in an obvious format, right? You have to kind of know your way around and what to do. Exclusion windows, I talked about this earlier, but set up a freeze period and you can target this to groups. So this is a great way, again, to say, I did have an admin just reach out to me because they have an add-in, and the vendor actually told them, hey, our add-in breaks if you update to the new build. So all the devices where he had that add-in in, he put into an exclusion window so they didn't get the new update for July while he's waiting for them to fix that. And then rollback. The most popular feature I think we have in terms of having a safety net at your fingertips, if you run into an issue, hitting the rollback button, getting your devices to a working state. All right. I'll pause here to open it up for any further questions, or if there's questions in chat, Matt, Eric, Martin, if there's anything I haven't caught that you guys want to call out.
There's a late question. Oh, go ahead, Martin.
I just wanted to share kind of my favorite story around channel management. So our tools really scale, and sometimes they scale better than we expect. So I was working with an enterprise customer, 100,000 seats, and they were testing Cloud Update for, I don't know, 4 or 5 months with like 20 devices. And then at a certain at a day they asked me like, hey, is there a limit how many devices we can flip to monthly enterprise channel using the channel management capability in the portal? And I said, yeah, maybe when you reach kind of 40,000 devices in one click, then it's getting really slow in our backend. And so this was on Friday, and then next Monday, they kicked off 40,000 devices. Tuesday, the next 40,000. Wednesday, the remaining roughly 20,000. On Friday, they moved more than 100,000 devices to monthly enterprise channel. And we were kind of, we got ready for kind of brace for impact, but it was all crickets. It was so silent on the help desk front that they were for a certain amount of time unsure if it just worked or if they totally broke it, so no one can actually call the help desk and say something was broken. So yeah, we as kind of the product group and the Rangers, we got kind of, that's maybe a bit too aggressive. But I saw this several times that customers went really fast and it just worked. So sometimes even we are surprised. But yeah, channel management, if you want to flip 40,000 devices per day, it works. I've seen it. I would not recommend it for every environment, but it works.
All right, let's flip it over to a question. And I jumped too soon. Matt did have this in here. So Steve, thanks for putting yours in earlier. But yeah, if you could just drop in the chat, what is your current preferred management tool specifically for M365 apps? So Cloud Update, either the Apps Admin Center, Intune, Config Managers, just drop them into chat so we know, because we are interested to see what. And it sounded like, based on the folks that didn't respond earlier, most people were on Cloud Update. A lot of Cloud Update. That's awesome. Glad to have you guys on board.
If anybody's on SCCM, Mecum, Config Manager, whatever you're calling it today, feel free to reach out to us on Discord and or direct through here. Ping us in the chat. We're happy to jump on a call and help kick the tires with you.
Cool. I'm going to keep going through the chat here. I think everybody else, but I'm going to pass the baton over to Martin if you want to do the update validation talk.
Yeah, happy to do. Thanks, Bob. So yeah, update validation. I'm aware a few people are using in the community are using it because there were some questions on Discord coming up. So the fundamental idea about update validation is, hey, you're staring out your updates, so not all the devices are updating on day one. So if something goes wrong, hopefully you don't break all devices on day one, but you kind of have a subset of devices. And then you might, hopefully, that's the idea of staggering an update, you learn about issues before you hit kind of the majority of your population, right? And so, but how do you learn about something went wrong? Is it kind of someone kind of chasing you on the hallway, or stuff is thrown at you when you go to lunch, or the help desk is crying out, or kind of your boss is impacted? Maybe that's a good sensor to kind of learn if latest update introduced any issues. So how do you recognize that something went wrong? So that's one part. And the other part is, if you have Office diagnostic data enabled, your device is sending already information to Microsoft about performance, stability, crashes, and all of this. So why not combine this? And this is what we did. We combined these two things that admins in large organizations want to have multiple waves so they can catch issues early. And we have diagnostic data at hand. So we built update validation and said, if you use cloud updates and you have devices on wave 1, when Patch Tuesday comes around, we can look at the devices of your wave 1 and kind of look into the past pre-Patch Tuesday. What was per device, per application? So we do it for Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, Outlook. So these 5 applications, what was the average performance and for kind of launching the application, and what was the average crash rate? So how reliable were these applications? And we can take this information for each device, for each application, from the 7 days before the device installed an update, and then monitor the 7 days after. Do the same calculations. What is the average performance of Outlook on device 1, of Outlook on device 2, and so on and so on, and start comparing these values with each other. And if we see degradation, we can show this to you as the admin. We can give you an alert. And we have multiple layers in the system. So we are not just comparing the values. There's also kind of crazy statistical black magic going on where we only take the results into account if we are 99% sure that the results are correct based on how many or how much diagnostic data came from device number 1 for a specific application. So we can make a call like, is this a reliable comparison, or is this kind of maybe there's a likelihood of 70% we are off? Then we ignore it. And also we have a noise filter in. So if, I don't know, the performance is 0.1 second slower, it is ignored in this comparison. And we have documentation where we have kind of all these thresholds explained. But if an application from a performance perspective is above these thresholds, it gets a score. And the same with reliability. So the crashes, if an application is crashing more often than before, it gets an additional score. So it's like 1 point or 0.5 points. And if this is too much across your wave 1 devices, we will give you a yellow warning in the cloud update page or on the cloud update page. So you can quickly identify like, oh, wave 1 is yellow. So potentially there's one application which is a bit slower, and you can drill into this data and see like, out of my 100 devices, which ones are reporting a degraded performance for which application. And if you're cool with this, do nothing, and then wave 2 comes around, and wave 3 and wave 4, and you're done. Or you can decide to hit the pause button or roll back these devices. And the same is true if you get a red alert, which is kind of more stuff have broken. So we see more crashes. It's not just about performance. And again, you can then look at like, okay, which application is crashing more often? Maybe it's OneNote. Maybe OneNote you treat as not this important. You just want to go or continue going, or you stop. But we want to show you these insights and help you with this reliable, statistically meaningful analysis and highlight these results so you can look at it and decide, okay, just let it go. Wave 2 can go, or no, hit the pause button, roll back wave 1 back. I have to figure out why Outlook is crashing more often. That's the whole idea behind update validation. Currently, it's the apps. What you see on the slides is what we are currently working on. We are working on also enabling this per add-in. So each add-in is compared to from pre-Patch Tuesday to the post-Patch Tuesday behavior. So that's version 2 we're currently working on. Not just the core apps, but also each individual add-in, which is on wave 1. Yeah, that's update validation. If you are not using update validation yet, I would like to ask you, kind of go into Cloud Updates, go to the settings, custom waves, enable custom waves, put it more than 10 devices on wave 1, and leave update validation enabled, and check the results next month. If this is help you for you to make the call, should we stop or continue? Yeah, that's my pitch for update validation. Back to, I don't know who's kind of driving the slides at the moment, is Bob or Eric?
I think you took control.
Oh yeah, I actually did.
I think there should be just one more slide with all the end stuff on it.
Yep.
There it is. Remember, all the links are clickable here. So if you see something you like, click on it. Yeah, I mean, with that, I mean, thanks, Martin, for jumping in there and doing update validation. We've been knocking out the questions as they hit the chat throughout the whole time. We do have, was it till noon, Chris? We have like a minute.
Yep, it was until noon. Yeah. Last minute, best questions.
Yeah. So if any other questions, feel free to come off mute. Let us know what you think. Feedback, questions, comments, concerns. Drop them in the chat. After the call today, find us on Discord as well. And we'll be in the M365 apps chat. But yeah, thanks again. Thanks for the great turnout and for always using Discord. Looks like we got a question from your hand raised. Maybe that was a clap. Never mind.
Awesome. Then unless anything else comes in, I'm gonna say thanks everyone. This did get recorded, so as long as all that goes okay, we'll post it up to our YouTube channel and we'll post it in our announcements when it's live. Thanks everyone for the great questions. I think it made it awesome. I'm also going to put my handle and email into the chat. If there's anybody on the call today who wants to present about their own things, we're looking for presenters for future months. We want to kind of get back on the cadence we used to have. So appreciate everyone and especially the M365 Rangers for sharing. I learned a lot today. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks all. Great.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for having us.